Brian Friend on the podcast.
Don't talk to me about ratios.
Is it a trigger word right now?
Oh, yeah, you're so screwed.
Or egregious amount of squatting that we did.
He's got a whole list on his phone of all the things I said.
I exclusively publicly talk bad about you.
That's not great.
What would you say the critical matter at hand is?
I kind of like lost all my friends.
Okay, we agree.
If you're telling me like I want to believe that Sevan wants to bring it back to the community, then I would ask what community. Because there's a huge part of the community that despise those guys.
Like, that's 100% true.
If you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it.
This is how you squat. All right. We got our friend, Brian Friend, on the podcast. We have not. So I had this idea. We kind of text back and forth when you put out that video about the egregious amount of squatting that we did. No, I'm just kidding. Excessive, that's what it was. Egregious is another beef I've got with somebody. And so I kind of, we had discussed having a long-form discussion about everything that's going on. And we kind of did this with Castro when there was that, like, beef going on between us that wasn't really beef. And just, like, with us, there's not any, like, I mean, I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't need any more enemies. And so what's the point? And so I was like, hey, let's talk it out. We have not discussed since. And so, honestly, truthfully, so after we kind of had our little text back and forth, and honestly, I'm not the greatest. I'll read every once in a while, and then I get lost in it, and I'd rather have a face-to-face conversation. I think it was like 2 days ago. You're like, hey, let's talk on the phone. And I have these guys know, a weird, like, phobia of actually talking on the phone. I don't pay attention. FaceTime's not great for me either. And so I was like, hey, why don't you come out and we'll podcast? And you're like, all right, cool, I'll do that. And so, hey, that says a lot, big on you. But you are the first WFP representative. Will Morad texted me after I told you that nobody had reached out to me, but we didn't talk about anything about the WFP. And I was like, all right, cool. He was just like checking in. And I was like, which I appreciated. And I was like kind of waiting, and that was it. So you are the first representative of WFP on this show, or to even talk to us about anything relating to the WFP.
Oh, yeah, you're so screwed.
So there's a lot of setup, and
Well, I'll just affirm, like, I have remembered, because obviously I've watched your stuff for a decade plus, and I remember many times that you've always said, hey, I'm right here. If you want to talk to me, all these enemies you have, apparently, I'm here.
Well, and you said there's a lot of people that won't, publicly talk bad about me, but they will privately. No, I'm just kidding.
Did I say that too?
He's
got a whole list on his phone of all the
publicly talk bad about you.
In Billy Madison where he sketched, like people to kill or whatever with the lipstick. That's me at night.
Yeah, you have a list like that.
Yeah, and
everyone's got a list like that. I'm just concerned about the list that I'm on. Anyway, I said, you know what? I'm just going to call.
Yeah.
So I called you out of the blue, which I've probably never done before.
No.
And you didn't answer, which was not surprising.
I was coaching Coach's pitch that night.
I was
like
actually
early afternoon or something.
No, it was evening. It was like 7 or 8
so then
p.m.
It was definitely.
I was probably with his family.
I was
but
coaching Coach's pitch. I'm almost like 100% sure.
Does this have anything to do with the softball league that you guys keep losing in?
No, hey, we won last night. Except for my
nice.
knee did not win. I got a huge pump knot on my knee. So
when's the last time that knee did win?
Never. 2017. April 20,
But yeah, you did text back the next morning, and in caps you said, I hate talking on the phone. And FaceTime's even worse, but I'd love to talk. Come on down.
Yeah.
And
I figured it too. It's like, I think it's better that we get it out publicly. That way, I did not like, Rory kind of brought it up at the end of the podcast, and we were almost wrapping the podcast up. I don't want to put I don't want to drag anybody's name through the mud. I'm tired of all the crap going on. I mean, we look at it in CrossFit space, but we look at it in society. It's like, can we not, let's come together and have conversations. And you said this too, is we may not agree on things. And guess what? That's okay. And we can still have, some things we agree on, some things we disagree on, but we can still come together and still have conversations. And I think we are missing that in society, in CrossFit, in all of it. And so, or in the WFP, I guess, technically.
Well, and that was what I was asking about in the fall.
Yeah.
I just could, you're out on the road, or I'm out on the road, and I hear all these things, and I talk to all these people, and I'm like, everyone's like trying to seek something better or seek some change or create something new, but it felt to me like a lot of people were pulling into their own direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to you because I thought that you, being who you are, had a chance to maybe pull people back in and get more focused on what's the actual critical matter at hand.
What would you say the critical matter at hand is? Mountain Ops has combined my two biggest passions, fitness and the outdoors, as well as sourcing quality ingredients. Mountain Ops Supplements has helped me get the most out of my training sessions in and out of the gym. If you want to start taking your results seriously, I've put together a bundle of Mountain Ops products. New and returning customers save 20% on their purchase when you visit mountainops.com and use the code Froning. That's MTNOPS.com, code FRONING. When it comes to your health, some of the most important factors are the ones that you can't see in the mirror. Bloke specializes in men's health, helping you identify and fix the things that might be holding you back from optimizing your health. So regular blood testing is critical for staying proactive. Luckily for you, our friends at Blokes are here to make things easier than ever. Blokes doesn't give results with no solutions. They offer personalized solutions that fit your life, and they make the whole process simple and accessible. I get my blood labs taken at CrossFit Mayhem or in the comfort of my own home. If you're serious about taking control of your total health, not just your workouts, head over to blokes.co and take the first step. Use the code FRONINGPOD, all one word, to enjoy 50% off of all your labs. When it comes to training flooring, durability is the most important factor. With Regapol's established 65-year history, the decision for our studio flooring was simple. Made from recycled tires, Regapol floors are indestructible, durable, and easy to install, and has less smell than other rubber flooring products on the market. To purchase, go to roguefitness.com and search Regupol. That's spelled REGUPOL. Get strong, grow durable, and unlock your potential on Regapol rubber flooring. Recover faster, breathe easier, and increase your endurance with Airwave's scientifically proven performance mouthpiece. If high-intensity or interval-style training is your sport, try their patented endurance mouthpiece. I opted for the Mayhem 2-pack with one of each. For podcast listeners only, save 15% of your purchase at airwave.com/Froning. That's airwave.com/Froning.
I think that CrossFit, Greg Glassman and CrossFit, revolutionized the health and fitness industry in a way nothing before it ever has. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he took a bunch of other stuff that was there, but he created something new and exciting, and we could talk about that forever. Right? We all know it. We all know a million people who know it. And over the last, 5 to 6 years, and I would say kind of escalating or crescendoing into this year, that thing's become tainted or jeopardized. Yep. And the lens through which people view it has been compromised. I think it's been compromised in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. And at the same time that's been going on, I took kind of a risk in my own life and career to give up something that was comfortable and predictable in terms of coaching, more or less full-time and traveling for a few of these competitions, to try to make a career out of traveling and covering the competitive fitness space. Mm-hmm. And it's been illuminating to many things that I don't think I ever would have known about since then. And in the meantime, I basically, I kind of lost all my friends that were my friends and acquaintances in the media world in North America, and that's been difficult for me because my one of the main objectives that I had was to try to bridge the gap between what's happening in the United States or North America when it comes to the competitive fitness community and what's happening internationally. And, Sevan and all of those guys could be a huge asset in terms of helping to spread the messages of what I've learned around the world, but they haven't been willing to help or promote in anything that I'm doing. They're more interested in making fun of me. And it's sad to me because when I watch these things and people send me these things, and it feels like they're trying to make it about me when I'm trying to illuminate communities. Mm-hmm. And that's been difficult with the emergence of the WFP. Now there's just a lot of unknown and uncertainty. And what I've observed, and these are just my observations, is it seems like people are either not willing to give something new a chance, or they feel almost like they're doubling down, like they're receding into their bunkers and battening the houses because they want to protect something that's really valuable to them.
To me, so to unpack a lot of that, and I've been vocal about it, some to my there's some of those guys and girls that probably don't agree with what I've said, but I think the downfall is when Greg canned the media team. And I think the intent of that was, I don't want to say from a good place. I think, I think Greg saw that the emphasis on the athlete and the high-level athlete was too much and wanted to bring some back to the community. Now, I think the pendulum swung way too far, in my opinion. And so I think what a lot of those I use Sevon for instance. He's trying to bring it back to the community. And here's the deal is you can see what people are doing and see that they're doing things for reasons. And you may not agree with the reason, but I do agree that things need to come, if that makes sense, come back to the community. And how do we bridge the gap between the two? And I think by some of the divisiveness that we've talked about, or just the, rumors, like the hard part is nobody's like come out and said, hey, let's work together. Like we've not come to and honestly, there's a track record in CrossFit for a long time of just everybody, if you're not with us, you're against us. And it's frustrating. I mean, you see from the outside, you see High Rocks, you see WFP now. I see what's so cool about CrossFit is when we walk into that gym at Mayhem on a Wednesday night and you have two different kids classes, one, kind of in session and one coming in. You see a life class, which is CrossFit, but they think they're doing something completely different. It's just, less skill-based. And then you have a CrossFit class. You've got, 50 to 60 people, ages 6 to 86. That's what I see, and that's what I see CrossFit. I see the games and athletes as the expression of what is possible using said methodology. And there's a way to marry them together, but the emphasis, I think at some point we can put too much emphasis on the athlete, and I think that is the swing that the I know they're doing their affiliate thing, and I don't really understand. There's just no communication, That's the hard part for me to get behind something like that. And we've been overseas, more times in the last year than I have in a long time. And you see and talk to these coaches, and they may not be an affiliate anymore, but it's the same community and they're having the same stories. But guess what? They're not sending people to the games. They're, I've had a push of like, hey, do a local competition, it's our version of a 5K, right? Hell, go out and do a High Rocks. You can use the CrossFit methodology to do a High Rocks. That's all they did was take our methodology and put it into a fun race. That's all it is.
Yeah. No, and the thing is that a lot of these, the top athletes in different parts of the world, they're like you. Like they're more than just a good athlete. They're community leaders.
Yep.
We had three guests on our podcast earlier this week, one from Greece, one from Albania, and one from Croatia, who are all top contenders. They've podiumed at one or two competitions, which is why we had them on, to talk about their success, but also what's going on in their part of the world. And I didn't even know how this podcast was going to go, but the first 45 minutes, I think personally is maybe the most important podcast we've had on Be Friendly Fitness. But 400 or 500 people have watched it, which is okay. We're not expecting to get 4,000 or 5,000, 50,000 views. We know we're not going to get that, but those stories are out there.
Right.
And if you're telling me like I want to believe that Sevon wants to bring it back to the community, then I would ask what community, because there's a huge part of the community that despise those guys, but they don't acknowledge them as their own, and that's the problem that I've observed from CrossFit. I don't know Greg personally. I don't know Dave personally. I know Sevon a little bit, but what I observed over time is that they started this incredible thing. All three of them, in their own regards, contributed. And eventually it got so big that they couldn't understand it anymore. And that it was outside of the ability to control, because it has expanded globally, where there's like 250 affiliates in Seoul, South Korea alone. Uh-huh. That's insane.
That's insane.
But there's less than 50 total affiliates in China right now.
Well,
there were a lot more.
I would agree that it outgrew the leadership at the time, and it is currently, I wouldn't say it's outgrown, it's shrunk heavily underneath the current leadership. And so
Morning Checkup just put that article out.
Well, I didn't see it.
I think 1,500 affiliates down since the...
I think it's more than that. I think they're hiding.
That's what the article said.
I would say, my guess is they're well under 8,000, you know, which is baffling to think about where they were. But there's, I mean,
almost at 50%.
but there's no, so I go back and forth between CrossFit HQ, what I see as CrossFit HQ and what I see as just the CrossFit community, right? And so I'm more or less saying the health of the CrossFit community is still there, not the name CrossFit. And honestly, and I don't know why, and I've had this conversation with other people, there's something about that word to me that there's some attachment to, and that's the hard part for me. Yes, I mean, people are obviously showing that, you know, they're unhappy with the current situation. I think a lot of us are. I think we all are, honestly. And I don't know what that fix is. I mean, I have some ideas, and one could be what's the benefit to using the name? And currently there isn't one. But I don't think that comes from.
But 8,000 owners still think that.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, we're one of those, you know, like, but I don't know if there's actual benefit to the name, or do I think it's just loyalty to the, you know, what we thought or what we see as the greater CrossFit community.
You might like this question. It's one I've been rolling around in my mind for a long time. Is if you were forced to pick one, would you go with loyalty or quality? And it's like I'm not expecting an answer to that.
Yeah.
You can spend a lifetime pondering that
Right.
question, right?
I think these guys know where I'm in
loyalty is definitely high up there on your values.
It's my values, and it's tough for me.
But what happens when a really close friend does something that hurts you? You know, and how you deal with that.
Yep.
And that's what that's a very personal example that people will resonate with. But that's how it feels with CrossFit. Mm-hmm. Because CrossFit was or still is such a special thing in all of our lives. Uh-huh. And it's caused injury to us
pain,
in some way or another. And I think what I've been really trying to communicate since the games is, for most people, there's no easy way to deal with what happened there. And if anything, I think that it's forced people to deal with a discomfort that they've had for a couple of years, maybe leading back all the way to 2019. But when something that powerful and traumatic happens, you can't ignore it anymore. And now, of course I'm talking about Lazar, but
you do good.
But then, like, what you've seen on the back end of that is people finally making decisions, you know, and they say, like, for me, enough's enough, and I'm going to do this. Yeah. Or I'm not going to do this, and other people saying, no, like I would have nothing in my life without this, and I'm doubling down on it because it needs me more than ever now.
Right.
And that's where I think that, you know, it's been a pretty
the line in the
fork,
sand.
and a pretty divided one.
You haven't said anything. What do you think?
I'm just thinking about everything that's being said. I don't know, just pondering it all, just listening to you guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't like obviously CrossFit isn't what it was before. I agree with him on the loyalty thing, which is maybe not the right call. Maybe it is the right call. I don't know. To stay and keep the CrossFit name. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I think my position or our position here at Mayhem is to be that rallying point. Be that
to keep other people like almost like to be the example. I guess is kind of almost in a way we're like. We may not necessarily support the things that have happened, or
people may not even support what we believe in. Faith, family, fitness, service. Like that's a pretty, you know, as soon as you throw faith out as the first thing, right?
Polarizing to some people.
And we're unashamed to say, hey, it's faith in Jesus. Like Scott's gone down some Reddit threads, and you know, like people are like, hey, that's not for me. But what I can support is
faith in something.
Well, no, it's the fact that we say we're going to do what we're going to do, and we do, and we live on that, right?
Yeah.
And so, to me, you know, having that CrossFit name, it's $4,500, which it used to be free for us, and then somehow we just started getting charged for it, which is interesting. But anyway, I don't know. There's just something to it to me, man. It's a it's a character flaw, whatever you want to call it, but loyalty and I know that.
I say it's a character trait.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, at some point, you know, like I know that with Mayhem, there's only so many people we can reach. But with CrossFit, I feel like, you know, it kind of bridges those gaps. Once people kind of get into the Mayhem fold, they're like, oh, it's CrossFit, right? And it's just but you get into any gym like that, and it
Well, and I don't think I ever answered your first question, which is what is like the critical thing at stake that we're talking about. We're talking about health and fitness on the global level.
Yep.
And how do you best spread that message?
Right.
And I think over the course of the last 20 to 25 years, CrossFit has been at the forefront of that and been, like I said earlier, super impactful, maybe more impactful than anything else. But what we're seeing right now is that it's not like that ripple effect has stopped.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you call me a representative of the WFP. I am working for the WFP this year.
Well, that makes you representative,
Yeah.
I don't get paid by CrossFit. So as much as people want to say, oh, Rich is just, whatever, I actually pay CrossFit,
Yeah. And I mean, but look, I'm going to Spain next week to live stream Wadland Fest.
Oh, are you? Look at you coming back around. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, they had no live stream.
Yeah, I mean, man, and I get it. It's expensive, dude. It's not a cheap.
Well, it's not expensive all the time.
All right.
What you guys did was you guys talked about the price is expensive, and it prices almost everyone out of the market.
Right.
That was the idea of Be Friendly Fitness, is to create an affordable live stream. So there's no competition in the world that I can't live stream for $5,000 or less.
There you go, Rory.
But what you're going to get out of it is not going to have the full production. It
Right.
doesn't have trucks and full-time technicians and live scoring. Well, we do have live scoring actually, but then it takes people to man it. And while there are times that I've been willing to do things for a reduced cost, I'm not willing to hire people to do things for a reduced cost, which you get. But anyway, now what's going on, I think, is that a lot of people, it was 2020. I was actively pursuing investors that I was like, we can do better than what the CrossFit Games season has become. And I think this is important to say. I've said it before, but maybe people who listen here haven't heard it. What I've experienced more than anything going to so many competitions around the world is that signing up for a competition at every level has the ability to change your life. Mm-hmm. It's just like signing up for any other competitive outlet that you would do, or if you're going to get married, or if you're going on spring break. You put a date on the calendar and you want to do something, you want to show up there prepared for it.
I've said it here before,
yeah. And if you're showing up for a competition in the scaled division, adaptive, masters, or the best in the world, what are you going to change to make sure that you do better? You're probably going to sleep a little more, eat a little better, drink a little less.
Train a little bit more,
or with more intention. And if you do those over a long period of time, this is something that far predates CrossFit. Then those things become habits. And even after you do them, you might be like, damn, I feel great. I'm going to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. And now every one of those people has the ability to, through competition, go back into their lives with their families, their friends, their coworkers, whomever, and lead by example, the same as you guys are doing. And I think that that's super powerful. And that's why I think that I remember being at the 2018 CrossFit Games when, as a first-year sub-on, invited me to come. And there was a lot of, this health summit was going on that year. In fact, he was almost exclusively working on it with Greg. And at that week, people were talking about, should there be a divide between CrossFit, the sport, and CrossFit health, is what they were saying at the time. And I think that question still exists. I think that they can definitely coexist.
I think they can coexist 100%. And I've been pretty vocal about it that, we do a lot of local competitions. We show up to local competitions. I think, like you're saying, having something to train for, whether it's changing your habits, learning something about yourself during that competition, all of those things. So I 100% agree. I just think at some point the athletes need to give back and pour back into the community. Now you're saying that that's happening overseas or whatever, but at the high level, not that it was, the only way to do it, but when I first started, a lot of those guys and girls were gym owners. I was a gym owner the whole time. Granted, within reason, Josh ran the gym for us for a long time. Darren ran it, Yvette when she was here, and I was there. But, there were days where I was coaching multiple hours and we were part of the community, and that's a big thing that I've tried to push with our athletes here and now is like, hey, these are the people that are going to get behind you. It should, like you're saying, work together as a system, but the system is broken right now. And I don't know what the answer is other than the leadership at the top. There isn't any. It's a vacuum. It's been a power vacuum ever since Greg left.
Yeah, and then obviously it was strange because Dave's a very powerful figure, and then he was there, and then he was gone, and then he's back, and I'm sure that trying to figure out and navigate that has been a challenge. But I was thinking about this with the athletes because I've heard this come up before. You've talked about other people have talked about it, and it wasn't just gym owners. Like you guys were on the level 1 seminar staff. you were like meeting the
Big Sky,
people
all
there,
those different
and doing
events.
all this stuff. Yeah, again, faster. What was that?
Big and faster rogue throwdown.
Yeah, and I think that, as far as the athletes go right now, like if you're talking about the best athletes in our sport, that there's a little bit of a transition period happening, where, you know, and I always give you the credit for this as being the person who created the possibility for the professional athlete in CrossFit.
Yeah.
I always say, like, Tiger Woods kind of redefined this in golf. Just look at the career.
It was perfect time, perfect place.
Yeah, it has to be. You
me.
have to have the physical assets and the personality, but it also is a matter of time, right?
For sure.
Magic Johnson could have done what Jordan did if they had just been
Different
bored 10 years
times.
apart, right? So, anyway, now we're in this era where there's not enough people that are actually making like enough money as professional athletes to do something on the community level like the NBA players do.
Right.
Like, those guys have so much money, and so like creating their own foundation.
Well, I don't even need them to go out and do their own foundation. I need them to do one training session inside an affiliate with a class, you know, in the off season. That's a huge minor step, you know. And the hard part. Sorry, I mean, I'm not one-handing you to shut up.
No, this is good. I can add on to that. Go ahead.
But in the off season, adding like 2 sessions a week in the affiliate during a class changes the game for them, because they have the support of these other people that are like, oh, man, he walked in here. But then it also has the, like, I don't need them to go out and pack meals and do all these things. Like, yes, if you get to that point, you know, with what we have with Mayhem Mission going on, absolutely give back, you know, like service is part of it. But just be in the affiliate. Like, I get it from a competitive standpoint. You get so hyper-focused. There's always a competition to get ready for. But, I mean, now, like, there's 3 or 4 months where people could, like, I've talked to people that are like, yeah, I haven't worked out in a week. And you're just like, what? Like, for me, that blows my mind. You know, like, I'm also a bit of a psycho when it comes to working out. Like, I have to work out multiple times a day, or I feel like, you know, there's underlying issues there if we're really going to get down to it. But it's like, those are simple. That's simple.
That is simple, and that's definitely a reasonable ask, and with a big impact.
Yeah,
small commitment, big impact.
So, like, when it comes to the athletes doing something more than nothing, then a poor widow came by and dropped in 2 small coins.
There you go.
I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the rest of them, for they have given a tiny part of their surplus, but she is poor. As poor as she is, she's given everything she has. I just called Dom, actually, on the way here. This fits super well. I was listening to Father Mike, who was at the games, actually. Father Mike, on he does these daily minute homilies on the Hallow app. And he was talking about this guy named Jim, and he was a very busy guy. And he fit into a schedule always. At once a day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, he would go to his church, and he would kneel down and pray and say, hey, God, it's me, Jim. And he would leave. And that's all the time he had for. It's all he had time for. And he would leave, and that's all he would do. Like, that's all he had time for. But he made it a point to do something. Always to do something. So, like, yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, doing more, obviously, like, we at Mayhem in general, we do a lot.
More. We all want to do more. I think
how can you do more of nothing is nothing still. So, like, why don't you do something, and something grows from that. So, like, do a little. If you think the impact is going to be small, yeah, it might be small, but it might impact one thing. We talk about this all the time, about, like, where you said the 300 or 400 viewers on your video is minute compared to other stuff, other videos that may get. We talk about that on the CrossFit versus the CrossFit Games videos, where Dave thought the CrossFit Games, on the YouTube channel, you're like, dude, this is dominating our YouTube channel. Like, I don't want it to dominate our YouTube channel. But those CrossFit Games videos, yeah, sure, like, I started CrossFit because Rich did it, and then Ben started because I did it. So, like, through Rich, he got both of us, and just like Rich said, we have the life class. Ben's mom now goes to the life class. So, like, through that grapevine, that's added a bunch of people to the CrossFit community. But so the CrossFit Games video did impact a lot of people's lives. The CrossFit video, you may not ever know, but one person may have seen that. Like, this isn't a video for sure, but you see, I lost 100 pounds doing, going to my local affiliate or whatever, whatever the story is, or like an 80-year-old person gets their first air squat or whatever it is. Like, yeah, there may not be as many views, but the lives changed. Probably the ratio of lives changed to views
Impact.
is much higher. The impact
Don't
is much
talk to me
higher.
about ratios.
What?
Don't talk to me about ratios.
Yeah.
Is this trigger
good.
word right now?
That's good. Oh, that's good. I've never heard that, but that is funny.
I'd never heard of it either.
I thought, it's Taylor.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I just wanted to add a real life example of like doing something like elite level athletes doing something like in the community, whether it be like do a class, whatever. Yeah. So in 2022 when I went team, we were the C team. The B team was Angela's team, A team was your team.
Sure. 100%.
Naturally.
100%.
One thing I'm not like, Angela, don't take this as I'm like shitting on you guys, because I'm not. But like one thing I thought was like really interesting was we sold more T-shirts than Independence did. Justice did, the C team. And I was like in that year, that was when Sasha was on the team and Luke hadn't been here long at that time, like a year. And Alexa was on the team. Right. So Angela was only like true hometown hero, whereas like Aniston, who's been coaching there. Huh?
Say that again.
Hometown hero.
He's got his picture hanging in Prescott Central Middle School.
Yeah.
Can we name
I'm giving you that credit. But then, and of course, I've been going there since 2016.
Forever.
And I did classes for the first 2-3 years.
You guys were a true affiliate.
Right, yeah. I mean, yeah, and Seth, he'd been there a year and a half, but he always works out in the gym. I don't know, I just thought that was cool. You know, it's like an example of, the community supporting us financially. Even like there was 2 people who gave us $1,000 to help us at the games, like with costs and everything. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, that's cool. I don't want to minimize the impact of the athletes. Like that's not what I want to do. I want to show or talk about the impact they do have already, but how much more of an impact they could have, if that makes sense. I think, I will say, as of late, I feel like some of them are coming around and doing more of that stuff and promoting it. And I think the trash talk between Hopper, Medeiros, and Sprague is great. Like some of that stuff is fun. Hopper, we've talked a lot in the last probably 2 weeks, which we'd never really talked before. I like him. I know he's like kind of playing a character, which I'm fine with. Like I think we need more of that type of stuff if we want it to move forward. But man,
has that ever worked in like wrestling or anything?
It works a lot, right? NASCAR. I mean, you look at like Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon. I mean, obviously, that's my background growing up, and like those two were best friends, but they pitted up that rivalry, and guess what? They made a lot of money, and so it's tough too because everybody's they're just doing it for the money. Yeah, you got to make money, or else what? Like
I'm not allowed to make money.
No, nobody's allowed to make money. No. You can't make money. It's not fair, but I would also say like conversations. Why can't we have conversations? Why can't we get everybody in a room and be like, hey, what's some ideas? Nope, that idea sucks. And it's fine to not have an ego. I feel like from the beginning, because hell, I was part of the old guard and, saw a lot of what went on with CrossFit in the early days. And you're just like, holy crap, this is how business works, or this is how people. And you're like, I don't want to be any part of this. That's why I've never moved to any of the hubs. I was like, I'm staying in Cookeville, right? And because it was very cutthroat. If you didn't listen and didn't talk their way and didn't do their stuff, you were blackballed. And, there's a whole summit of just different people that got cut out of the community because they voiced their opinion. That doesn't need to happen. And I'm not saying that we need to take everybody's opinion, but we can all sit in a room and be like, all right, that's a good idea. All right, your idea sucks. Like why can't we have those conversations without people getting butthurt? Hard part 2. What gets the most views, the most likes, the most clicks? Hate.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But yeah, I think this other thing you're talking about is something that will resonate with a lot of people, of just not feeling like they have a voice and feeling like if they say the wrong thing that it's going to have a negative repercussion
back in their comments and they're going to get ratioed. No,
you know why? Do you know why I didn't say your name on there?
No, I don't. I'm just kidding. Well, you said Mayhem Classic, but then you said some programmers.
Yeah,
it kind of hurt my feelings.
I know, but
I was going to say my effing name, but I didn't.
I listened to your podcast.
Yeah,
where you talked about me a little bit.
What did I say about you?
Nothing. But earlier in the podcast, well, nothing bad. But earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that there was actually 4 programmers of Mayhem Classic. So I just wanted to make sure that I was knocking them all down at once and not singling you out.
So he was talking to you too.
That guy
and
the
Darren.
all of them.
Hey, I was only here for the show. I didn't have anything to do with the
actual
excessive
programming. Oh,
squatting.
now you're backpedaling. Huh?
But I did actually think about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I from listening to you guys talk on the the live stream, it wasn't clear that you'd written all the workouts.
I just wanted
so
a snarky comment. That's all I wanted. You know, I was just going for the clicks.
Yeah.
You got the clicks.
It seems like that as of late. That's what I do. Man, I just, you know, I think when I saw that comment from you, I just started I literally laughed out loud because I could just imagine you. I was sitting in the media office. I was like, "Did you guys see this?" I was like, I was like, "Should I?" And most of the time, Rory's like, "I don't know." Scott's like, "Yeah, burn it down." And for some reason, I just pushed send before it even happened. I was like, "Set it," and then
we already commented from Mayhem Classic.
Mayhem Classic, yeah.
The thing is, though, that's funny is like a lot of stuff like that will get taken like out of or like taken too seriously almost. Like his video, like I was like that kind of pissed me off because we just put on this great event and all that, but I'm not gonna think about it even like for 5 minutes, you know.
No.
So
well,
like
we're just, you know, we're just out of the event and how
actually,
emotional we were. Of how man, like top to bottom, the team knocked it out of the park. Like I didn't do anything other than said, "Hey, Rory, yeah, let's spend the money." Rory got all the sponsors. These guys put together a show. Angelo was a hero of the broadcast.
I know,
and we just had fun, man. Like
so
everybody did their part. And then, you know, the day later, and your intent wasn't. It was really to show that how come we're so critical of these others.
No, because that event, the World Fitness Project qualifier, has a whole group of people that you're thinking about when you say that comment too, that have put a lot on the line, put a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of thought, a lot of work into it. And they put that out there, and there's people that they don't care what it says. They're just going to attack it or ignore it or worse. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the way that you guys might have felt that personally,
I
on
feel
the back
like,
of
though,
something that
we
you poured
also
so
will
much
discuss
into.
it on long form. I think long form is different than just shooting something on an Instagram video or a tweet or whatever and taking not out of context. I mean, I've said I don't necessarily hate what the WFP is doing. I don't know.
You don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're doing. Not that somebody needs to come kiss the ring or any bullshit like that. Like, I'm tired of that. But I also want to, like, I want to know, like,
don't lie.
Hey,
You want him to kiss the ring.
I don't even, a plastic ring. Like, but it's still, I would just, there's no conversation. There's not been a conversation.
You kissed the ring?
Of course, every morning.
Every morning.
Well, there's also
see?
there's also a lot of due to the lack of communication. There's a lot of rumors that have been like, oh, that's a rumor, but then it turns out to be true. Like the affiliate program, it was like, hey, we're not going to compete with CrossFit, but now there's an affiliate program. We're not going to compete with
the games,
but
we're not going to make people choose.
The dates are lining up. Like it's just stuff like that, and maybe we're reading into it too much. But also, when there's not the communication, it allows people the space to read into it.
Well, I can definitely shed some light on some of that stuff if you guys want. But also, I mean, they have to start somewhere. Yeah. And they can't tell everything at once, and they can't do everything at once. And there's a lot. They are doing a lot. Yeah. And I think I would definitely agree, and I think they would agree too, that some of the ways that those things have come out or even been rolled out by them are not perfect and not optimal. And that and because of that, because you know how it is with just a group of people. You're going to have 10% on either side that are just stubborn.
They're just going to be mad no matter what you do.
Yeah. If it's not their way, then it doesn't, there's no good in it. And then there's everybody else. And I think that for the people at the WFP, they're aware of the 10% on either side. Mm-hmm. And in this case, that's the 10% that are loyal to CrossFit, and they always will be. There's nothing you can do.
No other way.
And there's 10% that loved CrossFit, but they're done with it. Mm-hmm. And then there's 80% that are trying to figure it out right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that even in some of the doling out of the things, some of those 80% have been lost too. Yeah. Because it didn't go well. Yeah. But I've been in a situation where I've been, I would say, in a very small minority of actually getting a chance to ask questions about those things, learn where they're actually coming from by talking to the people whose initiatives and ideas and who've put a lot of work and money into it. And then, I've basically said, like, that conversation totally changed my perspective on this. And I know that there's things that are being done to allow for the outward expression of some of those things as well.
Right. I think transparency is lost. I think it's been lost in CrossFit. I think it's lost currently in WFP. I mean, they kissed it bye-bye a long time ago with CrossFit. And that's what frustrates people. And I think seeing some of the stuff from the WFP, in my opinion, feels like old CrossFit, where it's like, oh, we'll tell you when you need to know. And it's just kind of like, then what are we doing? You know, and it's hard for me. It's hard for some of us that have been around and are the old guard to jump behind something new that we don't even know. Like, it just feels.
Well, what is something that it feels like you want to know more about that WFP has done? Or
What is
what makes it so appealing for the athlete?
This conversation came up on our podcast this week with regards to Roman, because, you know, even though I think that the men's field at Mayhem Classic was probably deserving of more than 2 spots, they only got 2 spots. Mm-hmm. Roman did his first competition back in 8 or 9 months. He did amazingly well. He beat some of the best guys on earth, and he didn't get what he came for. He did get $3,000 of Rich's money, so maybe he did get what he came for.
Yeah.
But what's he doing next week?
Wildland.
So he's going to Spain.
Yeah.
What happens if he doesn't take top 2 there? What's he doing the week after?
Online
Semifinals. And then no matter how he's done, and what's the likelihood of Roman qualifying top 11 online? It's random.
Yeah.
And no matter what's he doing the week after that?
WFP.
So this guy's potentially doing 4 serious competitions in a 5-week time period after not competing for 9 months.
Yeah.
That's not great.
Okay. We agree.
But someone I mentioned this. Someone commented in there, well, maybe he should just skip the WFP. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, let's think about that from Roman's point of view, because I think that, and I don't want to speak for Roman, but I know him fairly well. Like, Roman sees the best in the world. Roman sees a big paycheck. Roman wants to be there.
Yeah.
And he wants to win.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I mean, what's the worst case scenario for Roman? He takes 3rd place again next week. He takes 15th place online. He takes 3rd place at Syndicate Crown. He doesn't make the CrossFit Games. Mm-hmm. No money through the CrossFit Games this year, even though he's one of the 10 best on earth. Even if he does make it to the CrossFit Games, if something like last year happens where he can't perform at 100% and he finishes 8th, how much money is he taking from the CrossFit Games this year?
Yeah, not a ton.
And in the meantime, he has a guaranteed contract from the WFP that he'd have to place, I think, somewhere between 4th and 7th at the games to make as much money as he's guaranteed if he finishes last at WFP across these 3 events. So what's in it for the athletes? A guaranteed paycheck and guaranteed competitions against some of the best in the world in new communities. At the very least, I
think Roman, in my opinion, is the outlier because of how much he enjoys competing and how much he enjoys making money from it. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. He is very vocal about, like, being an athlete is like a dream job. Like, he's like, this is great. I get to make money and compete. And he's like, this is awesome. Like, I eat, sleep, and train. It's like, it's great. Like, this is a great life. Now, for like the other athletes who, like, what do you think about the athletes? Was the idea always intended to almost make them choose? Like, when I look at Jack Farlow and Emma Lawson, I know she was maybe injured and, whatever. Like, where they decided not to do the Open because of WFP, they want to do the WFP. Like, is that
to that point? The intent may not have been to compete with the CrossFit Games, but you are competing with the CrossFit Games.
Yeah,
you exactly like you're saying. By doing 3 or 4 of these competitions, you are competing with the CrossFit Games, and that for me is like, why isn't there like? I'm almost answering my own question because CrossFit does not play well with others. We all know that. If you're not with us, you're against us. And we've preached it from the beginning. My hard part is, like, when I competed, you had the CrossFit Games, and that was it. You didn't have, you didn't have Rogue. You didn't have Wodapalooza where you can make money. I've always been for allowing athletes to compete at multiple different levels. I feel like we kind of got close to that with the sanctional model. I feel like we're kind of getting back to that, but with in-person qualifying, but I think we messed it up by having 2 years of not having that and, allowing these kind of privatized regionals. But it just feels like, oh, hey, and I'm fine with if they in the beginning stood up and said, yep, we're in here to compete with CrossFit, and because I don't think, CrossFit's doing the right thing by athletes and we want to take care of the athletes. If they would have came out and said that from the beginning, I'd have been like, maybe I have to consider this, because I do want what's best for the athletes. Hell, I was one. The hard part for me is, like, I've got affiliate owner, I've got athlete, affiliate owner, event director, event programmer, whatever you want to call it. And so we've got all these different things. So I've seen all different angles, so I understand it. All they had to do, in my opinion, said, hey, yep, we are here to like, and then own it. But now it's just kind of like these shadow games, like, oh, we're not trying to, mess up the season or take away athletes. And then we have how many people back out of our event when we're trying to run an event because, obviously they got other things to take care of. And, I don't know who was injured, who was, doing whatever. And I'm not trying to place the blame on the athletes, but you've got all these kind of like things going on in the background. And it's frustrating to see when all they had to do, if
they were competing, just say you're competing.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have gotten behind them. I can't tell you that. But now I'm more pissed off at them that they were kind of like, oh, vague. No, we're just kind of with the vagueness. It pushed me to the 10%, And so that's the hard part for me.
Yeah. No, I hear that. And I think, the athletes this year are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's clear to many of them what to do. One of the interesting things to me is that, I knew that there were athletes throughout the fall that were not going to participate in the game season no matter what was available. And what was interesting to see is, some of them leaned really into this new opportunity. And others of them actually chose to forego both.
Really?
And they're just, they're either sick of the online qualifiers or they're recognizing that they're the best in their part of the world, and there's enough of these small competitions that they can just hit the circuit and make more money doing that.
I mean, in a perfect world, I think, you get rid of the online competition completely. I think it goes back to the sectional model that I, first did, but CrossFit has to make their money in the open, and, you could argue that the open or some of these online qualifiers is what supports these events because you need the money from behind it. So then it comes down to like the marketability, the hard part of like pushing some of these events. And you look into like the masters and the age groups and them getting split off and how that works. And it's like, it really comes back to the consumer of, hey, are you supporting people by buying the things that they're trying to sell? Are you, showing up and watching these events? Or else, it's also on all of us to do that as well. So that's, man, there's not one fix, I don't think, in the space. I think we are broken. I think some leadership and some communication is huge. Yeah,
and that's something that I think is echoing really loudly from here, because that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
You've I think in the last 4 or 5 months, like you've come out of the shadows a bit. You've put yourself more in the spotlight, and it resonates with how you've always been. It's just like, I'm not going to ask people to do something that I want to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as I've gotten older, I've realized, I said in the beginning, is like, I've got enough enemies. There's no reason. Like, I don't need an enemy just because we disagree on one or two things. Right. And I think that's lost right now in community. It's lost in CrossFit. And I think, moving forward, it's like, all right, how do we navigate this world of, we know divide is what gets clicks, right? And I feel like these long-form conversations are a way to kind of fix that and let people talk through their either thinking or, get their opinion out. When, once again, there's things that we agree on and things that we might never agree on, and that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at this year, and I'm trying to think about it through a variety of different lenses, but there's a ton of opportunities for athletes to compete. Yeah. I think that there's overall there's more money on the table, even though the prize purse at the games might be down this year. The total amount of money available for athletes to earn throughout the 2025 year, I think, is as big as it's ever been, and will probably be distributed more evenly than it's ever been. And that's a really positive thing.
Yeah, I think the intent of things like the is it PFAA? Yeah, I always screw that up. I don't know if there's 2 Fs or 2 As.
Haven't heard much from them recently.
No, and we talked about it when I was competing. I remember me and Josh and Dan and Jason and some others sat down and we were like, how do we, group up? And our big thing, man, at that time was like healthcare, like how do we make sure that or insurance, like if we have a big injury, how do we get that paid for? Or, if we're unable to work or make it to the games, how do we do that? And I feel like the PFAA had their chance. And, Brett's doing a good job now that he's not competing. He's come out and politicked here and, shown his face and done those types of things.
He's been on the road, yeah.
He's been on the road a little bit. And, I think at first I don't know if they did it the right way coming out with that, like that making demands instead of listening. I think listen more. Sometimes I think jokingly, when we were doing those spoof videos, silence is golden. Rory said that to you in the video as a joke, and you're like, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe internalizing some stuff and not going straight for the throat every time. I've learned that in the last little bit that, the emotional response immediately is, and granted, social is way different, right? Like social is quick snippets and you're just trying to do whatever. But in these, it's like, all right, hey, calm down for a second. And then let's really think about it and detach the emotion from it.
What was that thing you were reading from? That was a Bible passage earlier. I'll share with you a little Buddhist saying. I'll keep it really short so that Rich's ADHD doesn't take over. If it's not truthful and helpful, don't say it. If it's one or the other, don't say it. If it's both, wait for the right time. Imagine if you went through that checklist in your head before you spoke anytime, or type something.
Right.
But how many people right now, it seems like the mode of operation is see something, think something, say something, or type something, and it's like, what have I just done? And then sometimes they're not left with any option but to double down, and then, or at least they feel that way. Backed
into a corner. Well, you start messing with people's livelihood or their health or their family, then you're going to see,
well, that's, come out. And that's the thing that it's ultimately, what are we trying to do?
Yeah.
And what I was trying to do with that video is say,
divide. No, I'm just kidding.
Those guys don't know what they're doing when it comes to programming. Let me show you how to do it.
This is how you squat. I mean, don't squat. I mean, lunge. I don't get it.
Echo bike.
Can we go bike? Yes.
What's funny is I watched it back before I posted, and I was like, I guarantee you that
the hang up is going to be on
the word only.
Uh-huh.
And it was for you.
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, and coming back to that, and, that wasn't the true intent of the video when you posted it. But when we talked, we were like, is that heavy squatting? And then we were like, it's moderate squatting. We're not doing a ton of it. I thought Isabel would have been more power than anything. If you look at what Abby did, she crushed it, and she never once got close to parallel. But then you look at Guy, who's incredibly powerful. He squatted 28 of them. And so, I still think I stand on the test, and I don't think a lunge is a squat. I do think it is a leg dominant movement.
However, do you know why that thing about the lunge bothered me?
I did that workout though.
The lunging one?
Yeah, it's not your legs whatsoever.
Midline.
Yeah, all midline and shoulders. All.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. And your core.
I was just what Haley did on that workout.
Oh, smashed it. But you saw that anger. You saw that anger in her face.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
What was your problem with the lunge? Did you say?
No, it's that it's the same thing. Like the WFP qualifiers come out. Pretty much, they didn't get any criticism for their qualifier other than a lack of a squat.
Yeah,
I haven't.
And them using meters, even though they had feet, right? What was the?
It was just how it was displayed.
But there was.
Kidding. Yeah.
We just had the age group online semifinal. There were a lot more problems that were illuminated than there were about WFP qualifier, and we know there's people that really want to expose anything they can about WFP. So overall, I would say that was pretty good. And Will did test that last workout with squat cleans, and they decided to leave him out.
Yeah,
he's programming 6 events this year. I'm sure there'll be some squatting.
Yeah, I think they put one out. It was like dumbbell thrusters with 70s, and then double overhead walking lunge with 70s.
It wasn't actually supposed to be posted today.
I know. I heard barbell spin posted or something like that.
Yeah, but he didn't even do any sleuthing.
Really?
They just the back end scheduling of that one. Someone picked the wrong date.
CrossFit, man.
And you know what?
Who cares? It is what it is.
It's fine. But they're announcing all their workouts 3 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, so people can practice them.
Yeah, and I spoke to Will, and and he's super, super conscientious of the fact that the semifinal is the week before that, the online semifinal. And in programming this, he took that into account. Obviously, he doesn't know the things that are going to be asked of the athletes the week before, but
it's almost like they should talk.
Okay, so I have a question. This is not this is not on the WFP. It's not on CrossFit. It's just like, what is the answer? Because I think CrossFit's semifinal season, whatever you want to call it, has to your point with Roman, like it's kind of messed up for the athletes this year, where they have the ability to compete like 5 times and also have to do the WFP in the middle. So is there a way where almost the 2 seasons can coincide? Because some athletes are going to choose one, some are going to choose the other, but there's a lot that are going to try to do both for more money. And I don't know how that would work.
You're going to love my answer to this.
Love it. Let's do it.
Disc golf. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has existed for 10 years. And this year, there's a new league called the Go Throw League that's started by the players. Sound familiar? Well, disc golf's a little different than CrossFit because you can do it every week,
right?
And it doesn't have this, debilitating effect on the body. But they have a long season. It's like from end of February to end of October. That's the pro season. But there's 16 pro events and then 4 majors. So they're obviously not playing every week over that time. And so the Go Throw League has inserted itself kind of strategically, regionally, so that they're not far from the tour events. And the crazy thing that for me was I was watching a live coverage of disc golf a couple weeks ago on the Disc Golf Network, which is the Professional Disc Golf Association's network, and there was an ad for the Go Throw League. So they were
working together.
Oh,
imagine that.
And I know a couple of the players, and I talked to a couple of them, and one guy's like, "Yeah, man, Go Throw, it's great. I love playing every week.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna do a majority of those events." Another guy said, "Well, I got invited to the most prestigious one, and so I'm gonna do that one, but I don't like to play more than this number of events a year, so I'm going to do that." And you could see how that could eventually play itself out in the CrossFit space too, because Rich said it. Some athletes love competing.
Yep.
This girl from Albania we talked to, she does like 2 competitions a month. She loves it, and she's an engineer. She has aspirations to study aerophysics and all this stuff, but she's taking advantage of all a skill set she has and being young. And yeah, she's on the competition grind. But there's others like Jeff Adler.
10 years.
Jeff Adler's done like 3 competitions a year his whole career, and he's done exceptionally well at those, doing that. And this kind of, so you could see potentially a model where 2 different leagues could coexist.
I think it's fine. You look at PGA or tennis or any of those. We've talked about for years. How could that system work? You've got Rogue, you've got Wadapalooza. I mean, hell, now I'd throw the Mayhem Classic in there. It's like those events could, and the WFP could become those events, but communication and transparency. It's just like we can't just sit down. There's almost like I don't know if it's too far of a divide or we're too far gone at this point for those conversations to happen. But it's just frustrating sitting on both sides, I guess, because
now imagine this.
Hell, we have no voice at either table. Yeah, I think people think that we have this, our seat is at the CrossFit table. No, we've got nothing. Literally, we pay $4,500 a year to support them.
Yeah, and everyone like you who's putting on these competitions, from my understanding, is you got 1 or 2 spots to the games, have at it.
Yep. That honestly, that's been the hard part for me is there's been no oversight whatsoever, other than I got a call from someone the other day where we've not charged anybody for the programming. Not one person, actually, with all these events. Like I've just got a heart for it. Like, I enjoy programming. I want to make sure the tests are good for the athletes and not to, Hiller did a video with us. He was out here when Ben and Blair were out here. And there's some events I wouldn't have programmed that are going to show up in NCC. But I also didn't want to take their theme because they have that kind of like niche-y kind of like, you're like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know if I hate it. I don't know if I love it. I just don't know. I'm like undecided. And I didn't want to mess with that. And so, but I do want to have and make sure, because I believe in the sport and I believe in the longevity of it. And I want it to be a good test and a cool story and all this stuff. And so we've kind of, just helped these other organizations or other events. And so we got a call from someone at HQ that was verifying how we programmed. And if somebody in the committee had a level 1, and you're just like, that's the fight you want to pick right now? And so it was super frustrating. I'm just like, and, there's just, they can't get out of their own way. But I say all that to say, I feel like under that word, under that banner, we can all, people can come to where we're at and we're going to stay and be, the hard part is if it sells to the wrong group now. I mean, it is for sale. I think the only way it changes and moves forward in the right direction is if the right buyer buys it. If the wrong buyer buys it, that will be the nail in the coffin for us.
Have you heard that it's already sold? That's what I've heard. But I've heard there's also a grace period where another buyer can potentially make
it's so offer. Convoluted, the system that I've heard, and I don't even know if I know the right system. I have talked to several. people in play for the thing, and I don't know if I truly understand what's going on.
Yeah,
If the right people buy it, a right group of people buy it, I mean, here's the deal: is it has to make money, right? And so, if the right people buy it, yeah, I could see where we fit into it. But if the wrong people buy it, I don't know. Maybe Mayhem becomes something else, but we'll see.
Yeah, and everyone will, have to wait, and then
but
hopefully also, give them a chance. Like you can't and that's the message that I mostly want to deliver about the WFP is, I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah,
they have no events have happened yet. No season has played out yet. The affiliate thing or whatever you want to call it that they're doing.
Are they putting out a workout of the day? Or are they doing business stuff? What are they? What is the affiliate thing?
So that was when I first heard about that. That was like I took a step backwards and I was like, just the way that I heard about it initially, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to be involved if they're doing that, because that does feel like, especially with that word, right? But that's an example I was alluding to earlier where I was fortunate enough to be able to have a conversation with the people who are spearheading that. And after listening to them talk about it, I had a totally different perspective than just hearing the WFP starting an affiliate program.
What are you allowed to say?
So as I've been able to learn more about it, at first I thought it was just, what do they always say, like when the politicians' words, like just empty words to say
empty
words.
Promises,
But it seems to me like they are, and it seems like quite successfully right now, trying to gather this first group of 50 gyms, and not just any 50 gyms. Like they want to have a pretty good representation. And that can mean like gyms that have been around for a long time, some new gyms, some CrossFit gyms, some High Rocks gyms, international gyms. They're trying to hit a bunch of different demographics, I guess, which would make sense if your name is World. You probably want to have some good representation from around the world. And that they're going to work with those 50 gyms to create this thing. It's not created. There is no blueprint. There's not here's what we're coming to do, here's how we're going to make money, here's how we're going to make you money. They have ideas, but they want to hear from those other people's ideas, which, at first, even after hearing this, I was a little skeptical, having seen it actually play out a little bit more and know a couple people who are actually amongst the founding 50, I think is what they're calling the founding 50. That's actually, so far at least, is happening. But you'll know this from a little church example. The problem with what was a church in the Bible? It's just a gathering of people in a home. That's super laid back, easy, manageable. I was driving over here and I saw a cross that was like 100 feet high in the air, cross up on a hill. You probably know.
The River Church,
How many days have you spent on I-40 in your life?
Too many. Me and Scott spent a whole 2 days straight on it.
It's true.
To Oklahoma back.
And as these churches grow, there's a lot of problems that come with them.
I mean, I've said it about CrossFit. CrossFit is the church, basically, what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I was looking this up. Like before the NFL, there was something else. Before the NBA, there was something else. Or there were two things and they became one thing. Or they were one thing and it became
Live
two
golf,
things.
PGA golf.
Yeah, so it's not unusual. In fact, it should have been expected, right? And I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing to take the standpoint of curiosity. And this is what I did at the games too. Obviously, I was completely devastated that morning, but I wanted to give them a chance. And by the middle of Saturday afternoon, I'd seen enough, and I couldn't be there anymore.
Yep.
And if they sell CrossFit, I'll give them a chance.
Yeah.
I still haven't written CrossFit off. I think that has been a false narrative that I'm a paying member of an affiliate.
Yeah.
I go to that gym. I'm in that community. It's the first time that I am a paying member of an affiliate in 10 years because I was coaching for the last 10 years at different gyms. It's the principles of CrossFit are the governing model for my life.
Right.
I spent 2 years on the road primarily, and I got a lot less fit and a lot less healthy doing that. Yeah. And I've spent 2-3 months at home this winter, gotten back into the routines that are laid out in the level 1, and I feel better in every aspect of life.
Right.
I'm definitely not going to be putting down or trying to advocate against what CrossFit is as its roots.
Right.
The issue that I have at this point is with how the sport's being handled and governed
sport
and run.
And community, sport and affiliates.
I don't know as much about the affiliates.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about the training.
Yeah.
So you won't hear me talk about that much because it's outside of my area of expertise. But I have spent the better part of 10 years learning a lot about the sport of CrossFit and fitness as it's evolved. And look, the driving principles that have allowed the emergence of the WFP are not any different than the ones that created the IF3. It was just 10 years later. But it was the same frustrations. International Functional Fitness Federation.
Oh, I don't even. Yeah, that's so.
But that was a games athlete who was frustrated.
Gretchen.
Yeah, who was frustrated with the way that things were going.
What is that doing now?
What is it doing?
Yeah.
It's continuing to spread. I've had a chance to be at a couple of her events to talk to her and her husband on the road, and she could have given up many, many times.
Yeah.
But she's stuck it out. You've said this before, I think, or someone similar to you has said it. No, I think it was you recently. That CrossFit is not going to be in the Olympics.
Oh, I did say that.
But part of the inspiration for the IF3 was that it could potentially be in the Olympics because it's more well defined.
Got it. Okay.
But also, she's found a way, and I don't think this is recognized enough either because people don't want to celebrate it because it's not their thing.
Right.
It's not CrossFit. But she's found a way to create professional athletes in countries around the world. And Norway was the first.
Yeah.
Because Norway...
They have like a fitness initiative in their government, right?
Right, but a lot of countries have stipends for athletes that represent their country in different sports. Well, CrossFit was not a sport that governments were going to recognize that way, but IF3 became that. So they those athletes get stipends from the government to support them as athletes, and so do their coaches. And now that's starting to spread to Sweden and to other countries around Europe and the Middle East. And there's more and more functional fitness federations that are integrating with the governments.
Gotcha.
And I've always said this about competitions. Like one of the in fact, I'm pretty sure I heard this on your podcast too. One of the best green flags you would say about a competition.
An athlete runs it.
Is if Rich Froning runs it. Is if you have the buy-in from the city or the country or the community that you're in.
Yeah, for sure.
When I see that that's happening, like next week in Malaga, the first event is sponsored by the city of Cordoba.
There you go.
Well, that's a good sign to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of like the purchase and all of that with CrossFit, do you think that a change in ownership and the subsequent decisions that are made have the potential to bring back the athletes that have kind of left the CrossFit space and gone fully WFP, or do you think it's too far gone for those people?
I think absolutely it has the potential to, but it mostly comes back to the main thing that Rich has been talking about, which is, are the people that are coming in here because they know they have all the answers and they're going to tell us all what to do? Or are they going to come in here with the mindset of, okay, this thing's been messed up for a while.
Fix it.
Let's get everything on the table. Let's get the people who are really interested in rewriting the ship together, and let's learn from them. It's actually been the most encouraging thing for me about being a part of the WFP. I was concerned that was going to happen, that these people come in, and they're like, we're going to do this thing. We know all the things that have been wrong, and we can do them right. And what I've been trying to communicate to the games team for years is, you guys that are running the games, it's pretty much the same group that's been there a long time, a lot of the same people. They have an experience with running the CrossFit Games that nobody else could ever have. It's intimate, it's depth of knowledge, it's over time. But Rich mentioned it. There weren't a lot of competitions. Now there are a lot of competitions. And there's people that love working or volunteering at these competitions that have now worked at and volunteered at and been a part of more competitions than the people that are running the CrossFit Games. Because those guys have, in order to, I think, maintain some integrity and not be overly influenced by what's out there, have not really entertained that stuff. They've stayed in their lane and run their thing. But consulting with, I'm not saying taking advice from, but consulting with, hey, what do you guys think about this? What have you learned on the road that could help us?
See? No, I agree.
And you have experts in medical and risk management, broadcast, athlete control, equipment,
Yeah, people that have done it
all
more
this
than
stuff.
just at the games.
And a lot of those people are involved with the WFP. And the people that are the core, the executive team of the WFP, who are young and somewhat inexperienced in those areas.
Who's judging there? Is it AFJ? WFP?
No, I don't think so. But judges are judges that you've seen around.
I bet there's probably some judges that are in the AFJ, I would assume.
The AFJ is an interesting one to me. I view it similarly to the PFAA. It's like that has something that all the judges who've judged regularly have always wanted, was someone to represent them.
Yeah.
And that's what the athletes wanted. What I think that both entities kind of missed was just the first step.
Yeah.
Let's get everyone in the room. Let's
communicate.
Well, let's agree on something.
Yeah.
And I said this to Brent and Pat, and I've said it to some other athletes following the games this year. What I would have done is called up all the athletes, whatever that looks like, and say, hey, do we want to have a voice or no? And if we can agree that we do, then what does that look like?
What is the voice?
Because now we have a common ground to stand on.
Yep.
But by taking a couple people took the initiative with the athletes, a couple people took the initiative with the judges and created something and also put themselves in leadership positions, and people didn't like that.
Yep.
They wanted to have a voice in who those leaders should be. But they didn't want to take the initiative to start it themselves. So my recommendation to both groups had been, okay, acknowledge that.
Yep.
Hey, we've been working for 2 years to prepare this documentation to do it. We're going to be in the chairman positions, whatever those are, for the first 2 years.
And then after that,
we'll have an open ballot.
Yep.
Yeah, but someone had to get it off the ground, and we've done that.
Yep.
So we're going to steer the ship to get out of the harbor.
Yep.
And after that, and I think that if you had gone in that direction, you would have had both of those groups could have had a lot more success because they're valuable. If those things can exist and be respected by everyone who's a part of those, then I think they're valuable assets.
I agree. What else?
I don't know.
We friends again? We're never
Always been
not
friends to me.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, look, I obviously, there's like someone with like these comments that people are saying, like, we think you're going to get more votes than Rich or something. I'm like, no.
Come on. Yeah, no.
No, what I'm really trying to do is maintain a balanced conversation. I feel like a lot of time I'm speaking on behalf of the people that don't have a voice in North America.
I get it.
And, I get frustrated when I hear those guys, and they know who they are, and I don't need to list off all their names here, but I get frustrated when they just come across as if they represent
everyone
when I know that they don't.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's parts of this community that
I think it's turned into politics, right? It's turned into, they're representing their constituents. They read comments, you read comments, and you think, that's what we always say that social media just represents the loud minority for the most part. Like, I hate surveys. Like, we'll send out surveys. Do you answer surveys?
Very infrequently.
Bingo. No, do you answer surveys? Either one of you guys ever? Unless I'm really pissed off.
Yeah.
Well, you know what really turns me off the survey? When I get it and it says, can you answer this quick survey? It will only take between 15 and 30 minutes. I'm like, nope.
That's not
if it said 1 to 2 minutes, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not still.
Those are the ones that I consider clicking on.
Yeah. That's
And
like
then 1 out of
polls
10.
don't work. I'm not answering in that
Never
poll,
answered a poll.
So that's just, I think people get, and I'm not saying we don't do it, like I get emboldened by, when I see comments where people are frustrated with other things going on, then I, you kind of take on that banner. And I'm not saying that's okay what they're doing or what other people are doing. I don't agree with how some people manage some of their stuff. Do I agree with some of the stuff they're saying? Absolutely. Do I agree with their antics? No, but that's what sells, and they're trying to make money. And, so I try to, man, it's hard because I kind of preached this back, we're coming out of the election. It was like, get down to the root of what they're trying to get across, and, be informed on both sides and all things. And so that's what we're doing here. The hard part is previous to talking to you, I hadn't heard any of these things. And I've tried to find some stuff about the WFP, right? All I see is drone shots of what they're going to be, where they're competing. And, like we get a thing that, hey, they're trying to get us to come be there as a vendor. And it was like 10 grand or something like that. But never once have we had a conversation about why we would do that.
Right.
And so once again, that's my hard part is you say all these things about communication and we're getting people in the room. We've not been communicated with. And I've been publicly cautious of the WFP. I wouldn't say that I've been anti. I said
think
from
that's
the beginning
actually
that,
responsible to be that way.
Well, because I agree with the athletes should have more opportunities to compete. I wish, my whole life for 5 years, especially, at the games, was riding on if I got a $300,000 check at the CrossFit Games. And if I showed up sick that year or with a tweak, my whole year's screwed, and I don't know what the hell's going to happen to my, every year when I'd finish the CrossFit Games, I'm like, maybe this is the year I go back to the fire department. Like that, I thought that was happening up until 2021. And then 2021, I was like, all right, I guess we've made enough money that I could, not go back to the fire department.
I mean,
seriously, I'm not, and that's not BSing. Like, that's 100% true. And I'm not making fun of going back to the fire department.
But think about all those guys, all those years that didn't.
I agree with it. You know, like, and so part of me is like, hell yeah, they're doing something. I just don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, we came at them hard for the no squatting or whatever, but also like
and then CrossFit for the Masters came out with no squatting.
Well,
I was like, well,
but I mean, you can't say we're CrossFit homers because last year we had the whole thing where we came at CrossFit so hard we had to settle it with Dave on a podcast.
Yeah, Dave got pissed. So I feel like we are
equal opportunity offenders.
We do, we do lean right, but every once in a while we come left, if you know what I mean. No, but I'm saying like we'll at least entertain the other side, and
your door swings both ways. Is what you're trying to say?
Is that what I'm saying?
Or you're a switch?
That's not what I was trying. That's not what I was trying to say.
Switch hitter.
Shit, is that the way that came out? But anyway,
I mean, it benefits.
It's like, hey, we'll try to call people out on their bullshit, but I also, I'll read stuff where we're not doing stuff the right way, but we're doing it the best way we can, the best way we know how, and the best way that I feel like with the best intentions.
I do agree with what you said about. I actually liked what you said about that. Like, obviously, it brought emotion. I mean, from him and from our team. Like when you made your video and they said something, and like halfway joking, but like obviously people on the internet don't get that in context. Obviously, there's no context. He just makes a comment and like he's being funny, but he's also kind of being serious at the same time.
Mostly just trying to be funny because it gets clicks.
And like that our attack on WFP, like there's people on that side too, where we're like, you're saying it and you're not attacking, but I'm gonna use that word, attacking the people who program the classic, and then when we talk about the WFP qualifiers, that's us attacking the programmers on that side. I do understand that, and makes it more personal when you are attacking something that somebody has worked on. But it just what was your intent with your video?
Mostly it was to level the playing field of the conversation.
Sling mud. That's all he was trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that it that like us attacking WFP and or the age group semifinals is for sure maybe not the right thing to do. I don't know that but I feel like we didn't attack. I'm just using attack. Like I feel like it was relatively tactful.
We can be critical.
For what we can.
Yeah,
critical.
we can be critical. I think we can talk. I don't think there's any wrong with.
But I think
if he comes on the podcast is like, hey, I think you guys squatted too much, and we talk that out.
Yeah.
And I think saying, hey, I don't, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, you take it or leave it, I don't think there was enough squatting in the WFP qualifier, and I don't think there was enough squatting in the age group. Yeah. Both. And I would lean towards maybe there was a touch too much squatting in our test, and I think all those can be true.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm fine with it being true.
I'm biased. I think, the years that I competed were very leg dominant, very heavy on the lower body. I think you look back at journal articles, and I'm a bit of a CrossFit homer, and you look at the level 1 and 4 of the 9 foundational movements are lower body. I would say that our test was a good CrossFit test. Was it a little leg dominant? Absolutely. But I think these are the way to have those conversations.
Yeah. I guess that's basically what I was trying to say. That this is the form where,
and that's also the reason why it was kind of like when you said, "Well, come on down, let's talk about it." Because I knew I was going into an environment of people that are open to having critical conversations,
right. And publicly, Yeah. And I
I
also want to have these conversations, so then there's no he said, she said. Well, he said or he said, and it's just we both got it out.
Don't give me my pronouns. I'll make my own pronouns.
You were in Tennessee, so you're careful.
If you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it.
Can't let it.
Careful. I'll get in trouble for that one, too. I think I
made
a pronoun joke one time.
Right?
Yeah.
Pronoun joke.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Can't joke about anything.
Well, pronouns are a joke.
He already quoted Buddha on here. I think we're out the window at this point. You quoted the Bible. He's quoted Buddha. I made a pronoun joke. We're all canceled.
Oh, yeah.
We hit the trifecta.
So, all right, man, I appreciate you coming out. You're going to hang out for a couple of days, interview some of your WFPers, hang out a little bit, fitness a little bit, talk about the future of CrossFit a little bit.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming out, man. Way to man up.
Over a year since I've been done.
Yeah, heck yeah. Anything else, Scott? Anything else you want? You got him on the hot seat. Burn him.
I don't have anything.
All right.
When's the last time you were here at Wadapalooza camp? When you got
camp,
Rabdo?
Rabdo. Yeah, it wasn't great, but
it wasn't great.
Hey, what's that, like 3 or 4 days? I did everything I could do.
You were taking it easy, not taking it easy, but you scaled some stuff, and you were like, all right, hey, I'm gonna take this one easy. Was it Toes Bar or GHT that got you? Which one was it?
I don't know. I just looked at what you guys were doing. I thought about how long I would expect it to take, and I tried to think, what could I do in that time frame? And then I just did my best with that. You didn't say anything to me the whole time I was here about fitness or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then the last day, you came up to me and you were like, I was impressed with the way you scaled. You're pretty fit too.
There you go. See?
Like, oh,
We always talk that we have that guy. There's
That
always
guy.
that guy around. Like if we like that guy that's always willing to like hurt,
Train.
but
just
you also
train.
don't have to like tell them how to change the workout, and they're not always like, well, what do I need to do? You know,
Yeah,
it's
they
like
just
they're
show,
just
they
like,
see what's on the
"What we
whiteboard.
doing?
Like, okay.
all right, I'll do this, I'll do that. All right, cool, and they walk away. Like that's like a badge of honor if you're that guy.
I
You know,
just
like
remember
usually
you-
that guy is not.
I remember you telling me that you were like, you had to like foam roll for 2 hours before you went to bed because you're so messed up from the volume of training.
I knew it was going to be 4 days, and so I was like, man, these first 2 nights, like I better be taking care of myself
There's no
because
water.
it keeps accumulating.
Yeah, it only adds
And
up.
there was a ton of athletes here, so they all, they can say they're not competing. They all get competitive, and
No, it
everyone
always
rises.
happens,
So
man. Always happens. Cool. Is that it, Scotty?
I think so. I
Your
think
dad, Scott.
we're good.
Yeah, brand new.
Good to have you here today, Dad.
We saw his
Thanks.
child yesterday. We brought him some food last night.
Nice. Chuck.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Dude,
is that the name,
Charles.
Charles?
I'm calling him Chuck.
Crazy. Newborn babies are so freaking
They're
small.
terrifying, man.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
terrifying.
It's
I
like
hate them.
it's like carrying a
scare me.
7-pound
I love
egg
kids.
with
I
a
hate
thin
babies.
shell.
I hate babies.
Yeah, they're so useless. They can't take care of themselves at all.
No, I don't
Oh,
even mind that
useless.
part. It's just the fact that you could break them.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
you-
saying.
yeah.
They can't do
You
anything
drop
about it.
Malcolm is perfect at this age.
Yeah.
He's
like,
durable.
You can push him over.
Well,
kinda.
no, we can just like go have some fun. I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
come
but they
follow
are-
me, man. Like, I don't have to carry you anywhere. Every once in a while, he wants to be held or whatever. That's fine. I just, man,
I mean, you drop that baby from here.
I always
and
had
you,
this-
like do some irreplaceable damage.
I always had this irrational fear that I was gonna be holding my newborn and like an earthquake would happen, and then I would just drop her.
done.
Irrational.
I mean,
I
in
know.
perspective, there's 2 calves that were born out there in the last 3 days, and they're already up walking around and running. You're just
Wow.
like,
We're
humans-
definitely one of the more
humans
useful
so
or
soft.
useless,
Useless.
baby
18
species.
years.
useless.
Yeah, like our children
Yeah.
are way more useless than every other species.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
think.
Yeah,
crazy.
heck yeah.
It's so weird. Like, cause then
It's crazy that that's just proof that like evolution didn't happen. Adam was made an adult man,
yeah,
right? Like
Yes.
I just came to that realization right there.
it's
Do you
so
think
it's
that-
There's no
get
way,
me
shape, or
started.
form we came as babies. How the hell would we be alive?
Yeah.
There it is. There's your
no, it's the primordial soup is what we came from, right? That's what
the
people
ooze,
say.
like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yeah,
I had to explain the whole premise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to these two on the
Really?
mountain last fall. Makes no sense at all when you
Makes
start
no
talking it out.
sense.
But it
Oh,
makes
it
all
makes no
the sense in the world.
when you grew up watching it.
I know. You gotta
Yeah,
watch
it
it.
was
Their
crazy.
their only diet is cheese pizza.
Do you remember that Bird? Me and Bird are just like,
Oh shit, birds in here.
There's people like that too, though.
What?
This guy that's worked as a videographer for us, half dozen comps in the last year, he's like, he looks like what's the guy, Jason Momoa?
mimosa.
Yeah.
Whatever his
Momoa,
name is.
yeah,
not
Jason
mimosa. That's a
Momoa.
drink.
Mimosa.
When he takes his shirt off, but I only ever see him eating donuts and drinking energy drinks.
Yeah.
Sounds like Rich.
Fit in here.
That's like
Fit in real good here.
Rich and I can eat the same diet, and he looks like he does, and I look like I do.
yeah. It is crazy. That is true.
All right. Appreciate you coming out, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.